Thriving in the fact-free zone. Why Tom Peters' management revolution is the only cure for workplace trauma. 1. The chaos hook. When fast and loose becomes a nightmare in the clinical language of organizational psychology. We often speak of cognitive dissonance, but rarely do we see it as viscerally as in the modern industrial graveyard. Consider a process engineer in a pulp mill, a professional who recently described their environment as a complete and utter chaotic shit show. Only 2 years prior, this individual was a grocery cashier, making 65% of their current salary. In that world, the rules were simple: scan, smile, and collect good boy points. It was predictable. Now, they inhabit a world where up is down and left is right. This isn't just a busy workplace. It is an environment of profound psychological trauma. When a mentorship program is discarded on day one and an engineer is told to babysit underpaid staff who make double their salary, the result is a total breakdown of the social and professional contract. This is technical gaslighting, a state where you are held to 100% accountability, while being provided with 0% of the necessary structure or truth. The question we must ask is whether this chaos is a byproduct of modern agility or a symptom of a dying organization using your trauma to subsidize its refusal to modernize. 2. Takeaway 1. Chaos is no longer an exception, it's the new operating system. The struggle of the frontline engineer is a localized eruption of a global reality. As Tom Peters famously diagnosed in Thriving on Chaos, the stable, predictable world of the mid-20th century has been replaced by a world turned upside down. Peters argues that the accelerating pace of change is not a hurdle to be cleared, but the permanent state of play. In this landscape, excellence is not a static destination, it is a moving target. To survive, individuals and organizations must move beyond merely tolerating tumult. They must adopt loving change as a psychological defense mechanism. The world has not just turned upside down. It is turning every which way at an accelerating pace. To meet the demands of the fast-changing competitive scene, we must simply learn to love change as much as we have hated it in the past. Today, loving change, tumult, even chaos, is a prerequisite for survival, let alone success. Tom Peters, Thriving on Chaos 3. Takeaway 2. The pulp mill trap, where chaos becomes toxic. We must distinguish between strategic chaos, which fuels innovation, and the pulp mill trap, which is a form of organizational failure. In the Reddit source, we see a closing asset in real time. This is where executives attempt to squeeze every penny out of a facility before it inevitably shuts down, often because they cannot compete with modern megamills. In this toxic ecosystem, chaos is used to hide the destruction of value. It manifests as a fact-free zone where operators, knowing they are underpaid and working in a dead-end environment, provide only 50% effort. Management, lacking technical familiarity with the areas they oversee, views nightmare-fuel tasks as trivial. This creates a Machiavellian survival culture characterized by bullying and discreet manipulation. Peters advocates for chaos to create value through agility. The pulp mill trap uses chaos as a shroud for neglect and value extraction. 4. Takeaway 3. The death of bigger is better and the rise of the niche. The failure of traditional, massive industrial structures signals the end of the bigger is better era. Modern economic success belongs to the niche players who use technology to enable rapid customization and agility. To move from a state of trauma to a management revolution, Peters identifies 5 core pillars of proactive performance: customer responsiveness, developing total flexibility to meet specific, evolving needs; continuous innovation, moving away from rigid plans toward small starts and fast failures; people power, transitioning from babysitting to self-managing teams and collective partnership; leadership, replacing nightmare fuel managers with leaders who manage by example and provide a shared vision; systems, decentralizing authority and simplifying control tools to eliminate bureaucratic rules. 5. Takeaway 4. Documentation as a survival tool in a fact-free zone. In the pulp mill trap, the technical reality is as fractured as the management. Engineers are often forced to work with obsolete or broken sensors and denied the budget for repairs. To compensate, they are instructed to get creative, applying polynomial bias factors to back-calculate data that should be fundamental. This leads to the absurdity of reporting potential savings of $300,000 plus minus $1 million, a margin of error so egregious that it renders the data meaningless. When your boss refuses to let you state assumptions in a report because it looks unprofessional, they are practicing a form of gaslighting designed to cover their tracks. In such a void, documentation becomes your only tether to reality. Following the advice of veteran engineers like Candive, you must track every win, every achievement, and every data point independently. This is unjust for your performance review, is the evidence you need for your next resume to prove you were the one creating value in a vacuum of incompetence. 6. Takeaway 5. The power of fuck you money and setting boundaries. The ultimate tool for psychological resilience in a chaotic environment is personal leverage. This is built on the foundation of a healthy nest egg, at least 5 to 6 months of savings. This fuck you money fundamentally shifts the power dynamic. It transforms you from a hostage of a toxic environment into a free agent who can afford to set hard boundaries. Setting these boundaries, such as the explicit "I do not do CAD" stance suggested by Will Scuba for Food is how you define your own value. When you possess the financial flexibility to walk out the gate, you gain the authority to refuse to be berated. As one veteran noted, telling an abusive manager, "I will not be berated," forces the organization to face the cost of its own dysfunction. If you can leave, they are the ones who have to explain to HR why they can't retain staff. 7. Takeaway 6. Moving from nice-to-do to must-do prescriptions in the past. The principles of excellence were often treated as elective nice-to-do strategies. Today, in an economy of shattering and accelerating change, Peter's 45 prescriptions have become a non-negotiable survival kit. These prescriptions weren't born in a vacuum. They were forged in environments like the Lockheed Skunk Works, where revolutionary change was prioritized over traditional corporate hierarchy. If an organization refuses to adopt these must-do actions, prioritizing cost-cutting over customer added value and quality is not thriving on chaos. It is simply sinking under the weight of its own obsolescence. 8. Conclusion. Finding the way forward. Chaos is the inevitable operating system of the modern world. But the trauma of a structureless, dishonest workplace is not an unavoidable fate. You possess the agency to decide whether you are in a forge for innovation or a graveyard of neglected assets. If you have prepared by documenting your wins, refining your skills, and securing your financial independence, you have the power to walk away from the pulp mill of your life. Ask yourself, is your organization using chaos to innovate and meet the future, or is it using your trauma to subsidize its refusal to modernize? If it's the latter, it's time to find a modern mega mill that actually values the skills you've fought so hard to maintain.